Oh.
Yes, right now the observer teams are already in the field.
Are they reporting well? Do you like the reports that you read?
I don't get the reports because I'm not part of this process. The practice of the East African community is that if you are a national of that country, you cannot be involved in observation.
Right.
So my role in this was only to facilitate the training of the observer missions. You know, I availed them space and all that, and I was present at the launching, but that's as far as I can go. I'm not allowed by our rules of procedure. And not only rules of procedure, I think it would be unethical for me as a Ugandan now to be part of the observation mission.
Right.
There would be a conflict of interest.
So the principle
So I'm not getting the reports. The reports are being got by the mission leader.
Right.
The leader of the mission of East African Community is a member of the East African Legislative Assembly.
So the principle is you could get involved, you could get sentimental because it affects you deeper than it affects somebody.
You could even get biased.
Right.
Yeah, you could say this one I think had more people, but you know, you could get biased.
You could forget which hat you're wearing. Could end up shouting at people in your home language.
You know.
And now, this is Spectrum on Radio 1. Madam Kiraso, how long does it take for a new nation to be admitted to the East African community?
Oh, there is no specific time frame, but we have benchmarks that we apply to each country. There is no specific time. For example, Rwanda had applied long before Burundi. I think Rwanda applied in 2002 or 3.
Right.
Yeah, but they were not admitted until 2007.
Right.
Burundi applied a little later. So there's no specific time frame. It depends on how the verification exercise goes.
Right.
We have certain benchmarks that we apply to the countries.
Right.
So we go through a verification of if they are conforming so as to qualify to be members of the East African community.
Okay, briefly before we get to hear from our listeners, what are some of the criteria, very briefly? Some of the criteria
are adherence to the rule of law and good governance. Actually, the same pillars that I've been talking about.
Right.
We ensure that the countries that we are admitting to the East African community are democratic,
right,
meaning that they choose their governments through elections.
Right.
I don't think the East African community, therefore, by that rule, can admit a country which has taken power through
a coup
or something like that.
Okay. And proximity, does it matter?
Oh, yes, it matters.
Can Mauritius, for instance, apply?
Those countries have to share borders with the EAC.
Mauritius cannot apply to be a member of the East African community?
It doesn't share a border.
Well, Zanzibar is an island in Tanzania. It doesn't share a border.
Zanzibar is not the member of East African community. It is the United Republic of Tanzania.
Can Somalia qualify? If it's straightened out, does it have a president in 3 months?
It has a border, doesn't it?
It does?
So then we'll apply the other benchmark.
So we go generically, you have to touch an East African border before. We have heard that South Sudan, they've told us here on this program that they would be interested, some officials from Sudan, they would be interested in joining the East African community. They expect to get independence in July to become a sovereign nation. How long do you think it would take them? Do you think we will see them on board by the end of this year, for instance?
I can't, again, really it will be preemptive for me to say it will be end of this year or next year, but we'll apply the benchmarks.
Right.
And we'll go through a process.
Right.
So we'll go through that process and see.
Well, this is Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight, we're looking at the role of the East African community in nurturing democracy. You can call in our telephone numbers, 0414-348-111, 0312-260-390, 0791-909-909. When you call in, please tell us your name and where you are calling from. You can also send a text message. What you do is type the word Spectrum in your phone browser, leave a space message, comment or question, and send it 7197. Spectrum, hello? Hello?
Good evening.
Good evening, your name?
Yeah, Edmond, thanks for hosting Madame Beatrice.
Your name, my friend?
Jimmy is the name.
Yes.
Very briefly, I just want to find out from my experience, in the current ongoing electoral process, her party, the NRM, is a very rich one, and buying left, right, and center of opposition candidates is in the papers. I just want to find out from travel around maybe East African federating states. Whether our credentials are good enough to allow our party therefore now begin forging alliances and sell their manifesto and agenda to the other neighboring countries. Thank you.
All right. Spectrum, hello? Hello? Spectrum, hello?
Hello.
Your name, my friend?
Yes.
Your name?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Okay.
This is Spectrum. You're live on air. Please go on with your question. Well, we seem to have lost you, my friend. Spectrum, hello? Hello? Okay.
My name is Akovi Chivirige.
Yes.
Akovi Chivirige, calling from Entebbe.
Yes, Mr. Chivirige.
I'd like to ask the lady in the studio that you've been in Tanzania for quite some time. And according to you, what lesson do you learn from the way of democracy that is carried out in that country? In terms of terms whereby a leader is supposed to lead a certain period of time and he goes away. Lastly, I wanted you to clarify on an issue of the East African workers who are not paid up to now. I don't know who is supposed to pay that money, and if it was paid, it is in whose office. People are a little bit skeptical about that. I don't know whether they will get that money. Thank you.
Interesting. Spectrum, hello? Hello?
Hello.
Your name, sir?
Radio 1?
Yes, Radio 1. Your name?
Yes, my name is Sinje. I'd like to ask that lady that what happens with legislatures in maybe now, just for example, in Uganda, whereby they conduct themselves in an abnormal way. Don't they have to be, do they have a role as East Africa to contain the situation?
What do you mean abnormal? Mr. Businje? Hello? Mr. Businje? You went before. Okay, your name, my friend?
Hello?
Yes?
My name is Sam.
Sam, yes?
Hello?
Yes, you're live on air. This is Spectrum.
My name is Sam.
Yes, Sam.
I had a proposal on an issue she was talking about in terms of political parties being linked. I would think.
Sam, we seem to be losing you. Can you move to a better location? Maybe it's a network complication on that side. Spectrum, hello. Okay, let's answer these questions, madam.
Yes.
NRM buying opposition candidates. Are Ugandan credentials good enough? That's the gist of Jimmy's question.
Well, he says the credentials of the party.
Yes.
Are they good enough
to fit within the broader East African aspiration?
Yes. I think credibility of the parties is very important. And I'm sure that will be one of the criteria that the other parties will use when they are partnering with them. I wouldn't say that this party doesn't have good credentials, the other one does not. My role will be to facilitate these political parties to get to know each other beyond the borders. Then they will decide. Actually, they should now start taking more interest in each other's activities.
Right.
So that they know which one is credible and which one is not. That was Jim. And then Mr. Kibirige says, being in Tanzania, what lessons have I learned on democracy?
Right.
And leaders going when they should go.
Term limits.
Term limits.
Yes.
That is according to the constitution of Tanzania.
Yes.
But there's also, each country has got its constitution.
Very, very true. No dispute about that.
Yes.
And Uganda has one.
And Uganda has
its constitution. And it was amended to relieve term limits.
Yes.
So you can rule until you drop.
So that is the Uganda constitution.
Right.
Now, he should be talking about not what other countries are doing, but how do we harmonize our practices. What I want Mr. Kibirige to know, when we talk of having one constitution of East Africa, these are the issues that will be put on the table. The East African constitution will be superior to the national constitution.
It won't be easy to amend it? Is that a word that you give?
The East African Community Constitution will be superior to the national constitutions.
The national constitutions will stay?
If that is the decision that will be taken.
Or they could
but they have to conform and be in line with. But also, how will they stay when you are having one country called East Africa? You'll have one country called East Africa.
What is likely to happen?
With its East African constitution, negotiated by 5 countries to ensure that it has got provisions that are agreed upon by all the countries.
What will happen to our kingdoms? We love them so much. I'm
telling you, Edmond, that will depend on what you'll have agreed on as 5 countries to put in the constitution of East Africa. So I can't say this will happen, that will happen, it will be blue or red, I don't know.
So, Honorable Kiraso, you cannot comment on term limits specifically, or you cannot, in specific terms, you cannot even comment about federalism.
I have commented. I have.
You can't go deeper than that on federalism or term limits. Let's talk about the East African workers who have not yet been paid.
Yeah, when the East African...
I spearheaded a campaign around 1990, and I think $40 million was paid. I'm surprised he says some people were not paid.
Yeah, some were paid, some were not.
Right.
I also tried to push that when I was chairing the budget committee in Parliament.
Right.
But what Single should know is that in 1984, seven years after the East African community broke violently, these heads of state came back together and said, let's have an agreement. An agreement was signed on how to share liabilities and assets.
True.
The liability to pay the former workers of the East African community falls squarely
with the country's government.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that's not an EAC matter. I cannot comment on it. But yeah, right now, from the EAC point of view, I can't comment on it.
Okay. I think that's very clear. Let's talk about the legislature. Mr. Businje, he gave us very, very broad words. We can only try to conjure what he actually meant. He said Ugandan legislators have been acting abnormal. Would they be normal in the East African community?
No, I don't think that's what he asked Edmond. He said, is there a way the EAC can control these legislatures?
Yes, answer that question the way you saw it. You had it.
Is there a way that the EAC can control the legislatures?
Yes.
The answer is no.
What do you mean?
Because these are parliaments of sovereign countries.
Yes.
I mean, how can the EAC control
Let's look at when you have one parliament eventually. We'll have one right now.
Exactly. We have the East African Legislative Assembly.
Yes.
Then that will be, it will have to conform to the East African standards. But however, he shouldn't lose heart. In the spirit of harmonizing our political practices,
yes,
we'll also have to look at how the various organs of governments work so that they are harmonized. There's already an interparliamentary forum. There's also the forum of the Speakers Forum, which is led by the Speaker of the East African Legislative Assembly. We have the forum of the Chief Justices. So the judiciary comes together. Legislatures come together. Of course, the executives come together at council and summit level. We are trying to harmonize. We should be mindful where we are coming from. We are coming from having 5 independent, sovereign countries. So you can't wake up one day and say, we are going to discipline members of parliament if they are behaving in a way that is not palatable to some members of the population.
Right. Let's talk about convergence, baby, before we wind up tonight. You mentioned that some organs are already interlinked: the parliament, the justices, and maybe the tax bodies, the central bank governors. Which bodies are yet to be interlinked?
Which bodies are yet to be
connected to have convergence?
Oh, there are so many bodies, Edmond. Probably yes. I can only remember those that are already linked. We have the Electoral Commissions Forum.
Right.
Our electoral commissioners, they meet under the auspices of the EAC. It's the EAC Electoral Commissions Forum.
Right.
We have the EAC Forum of Human Rights Commissions. We have the EAC Forum of Anti-Corruption Bodies. We have the EAC Forum of the Chief Justices, as I have already told you. Of course, on the economic side, there are so many. Under the auspices of the East African Business Council and so on and so forth, the East African Law Society.
Right. Well, I guess we'll have to end here tonight. I must thank our guest, Honorable Beatrice Kiraso, Deputy Secretary General at the East African Community in charge of Political Federation, also a former woman member of Parliament for Kaurole District. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Edmond, Kizito, your host for tonight. Spectrum will be back tomorrow at the same time, only on Radio 1. Right now you can hear the news in English and thereafter Soul Train. Stay tuned.